try my best to work my way throughout the presentation. You know, be as specific as possible. Throw out some examples like personal examples or academic examples as best as I could as I go on through the presentation within my 3 to 5 minute range, and I'll try my best to try and use my own words as I keep going. As I did try and use some examples from my reading reflections or my reflection journals. So I'm sorry, and I did cite my sources as well. I was also pretty engaged with the with my how I was like writing down my reflections and how I was doing my presentation as well. And I hope you guys enjoy it. So a learning strategy that I chose is time management training. Um, so what I wrote is that a learning strategy I chose to focus on for my reflection journal one is called quote unquote time management, or in academic terms, quote unquote time management training. So for definition, it's basically time management is a way that teaches you how to organize your time better or set priorities more effectively while staying focused to finish tasks in time, maybe earlier. An example of this is I wrote in my reflection journal one, where if I have a big project due in a couple weeks and I had work at the same time, I would break down parts by each day, one by one, until I finish that task. Basically, time management is like a skill that teaches you how to organize your time better and you know, set priorities more effectively, and it basically helps you stay focused and so you can basically finish your tasks on time. I know I just said that earlier, but it's like being intentional with how you spend your day instead of getting like tasks piled up on you. Being overwhelmed by how much work I have to do, or being too stressed about because, for example, I have a job, and I don't usually stress about finishing my homework during the same day because I work during weekdays in the afternoon. So and most of my homework is due at 11:59 p.m. So majority of the time I do my homework in the morning, and basically after my class is finished, like after 11 a.m., I do my homework immediately while eating breakfast as well. And I start work at 5 p.m., so I have a whole gap where I can do homework, eat breakfast, and multitasking at the same time. It's also a skill that we have to build on as well as we go on in life, I would say. You know, trying to manage our time and trying to also multitask at the same time while also finishing our work. It just it gets everything done, honestly. Um, and by doing this is I stay on track and I avoid stress, and I don't have to rush everything all at once at the end. So after my shifts, I don't have to worry about anything. I can just go home because I get off at 10 p.m. Realistically, I leave at 11 because I have to do cleaning at the end. So I get home at 11, and I basically take a shower and go to sleep, and wake up the next morning to get ready for my class, or sometimes I don't have a class, and I just relax, I get to do my homework, and I finish early, and I get to relax the rest of the day, or maybe run some errands if I need to, and yeah. It's just a simple habit that has helped me stay more organized and feel more in control of my schedule, basically my whole life. And if I keep this going, I'm more than ready to get to possibly be ready for a second job if possible. It's just I don't know. I got used to this kind of time management thing. So how does this work research wise? So based on research from Britton and Tesser in 1991, the reason the strategy works effectively is because it improves academic performance and academic outcomes. For example, they stated that quote unquote time management training and planning behaviors were directly associated with improved academic performance. In addition, Zimmerman 2000 further states self-regulated learners proactively structure their environment and schedule their time to optimize learning. Sorry. Basically, Zimmerman is saying that self-learners learn how to manage their time wisely, which better prepares them for the future as well. So, sorry about that. What it means to say is that like students who take charge of their own learning organizing their space, planning their schedule, you know, setting distractions aside. It just builds up. It's a step by step to success in life, not just in school, but in life as well. As we might do corporate jobs, or we might get a job in the as a blue collar worker if possible. We would have to wake up early in the morning and get off work. In the afternoon. We gotta put food on the table. We have to make sure we are organized with our schedule, or else we won't be successful in life. A boss won't appreciate a worker coming in late. A boss won't appreciate a worker who isn't here on time, who isn't engaged with with the work. Basically, they have to be able to learn how to manage their time wisely as well. You know, so this isn't just helpful in school. It also prepares us for the future. And these we don't even need honestly we don't even need research to prove this. This is just basic, like knowledge that we as people need to build. It's like we need to build this kind of skill to better perform as we try to, if we want to really be successful in life. Doesn't mean we have to be perfect. We just have to learn these skills bit by bit. So how is the strategy applied personally? So strategy is applied personally as I keep track of everything I need to strictly remember on my iPhone notes app, and I also keep everything structured within my calendar app. I also have organized files on my computer from each school year and each quarter. For example, I have my English classwork for my winter 2026 quarter. Sorry, I meant to say winter 2025 quarter. I'll fix that later before I turn this in. And it was my college freshman year, so I keep the assignments within that time range to a specific file for that time frame. I'm sorry, and class. So for what I said in the first part, um, yes, I keep my schedule in my iPhone Notes app. It's useful, yes, and I do write my entire schedule from Canvas. Sorry, my entire schedule from RWeb. I can see my schedule, write it down. Where's the classroom at? What building is it in? The classroom number. Is it a lecture? Is it a discussion? How long is it? What time does it end? What time does it begin? Is it online? Is it in person? These are things I gotta take note of on my iPhone Notes app for my schedule. I write these down so I can know I have to arrive to this class 5 minutes or 10 minutes or maybe even 15 minutes earlier before it even starts, because I have to like make sure I'm on top of my classes. I don't want to be late to my class. I'm aware that sometimes professors also count attendance as well. Very important. I keep engaged with that class as well, because I can't miss any classes, end up with a failing grade, and then it's not welcoming. And also I keep everything structured within my calendar app, where I'm organized with everything that I need to get going, not just school stuff, but also dentist appointments, or eye appointments, because I personally use eye contacts, and a year ago I just got off braces, so I'm using retainers, and I believe in 2 months or a month, I believe in August or September, I have to see my dentist. Before, my mom used to make my appointments, but I started learning how to make my own appointments. So it is definitely a life lesson I had to learn. I'll I'm aware some people or some of my friends still have their moms do their appointments for them, which is fine. It's just that I think it's better as we grow older, we do things ourselves, so we don't have to be too dependent on others to like do things for us, especially when it comes to keeping track of everything in our lives. Our moms won't always be there, or our parents, or anyone from our loved ones won't always be there to keep track of everything. It's our responsibility as ourselves to make sure we are better in track, and keeping everything organized, being in time for everything that we have to go to, per se. I also have to about the files. This isn't just a thing I carried in. I did. Sorry, this isn't just a thing that I started doing in my college life. I used to do this in high school as well, where I used to organize my files in high school, because I knew I would probably use them later in life, or maybe in my school year. For example, let's say my sophomore year, I had a science class. I believe it was biology. Yes, it was biology, and we were. I think we were studying about atoms or something like that, or the study of life. Is That's what it's about? Yes, and we were. I remember we were doing an experiment on plant life and evolution as well, and we were gonna carry that to physics class because we were gonna do an experiment later on. However, this was my sophomore year, my biology class, and my physics class was gonna be my senior year, so that would be 2 years later, and I knew I needed to keep it organized, and I knew I needed to stay organized and on top of my class, so I can have a good GPA, stand out to everyone else, and lucky for me, thanks to my past self, my future self is now granted is now in good hands because I was very responsible with my um, files, my organized files, and I was on track. I didn't have to stress about anything. It was all ready to go. This is how it works. Not just in school but in life as well. If we have to keep anything like, let's say our social security, card, or our student ID, or our California ID, or our driver's license, or personal IDs, or birth certificates, or anything like that. Anything personal, like any personal files we have to keep, we keep it to ourselves and only to ourselves because it is important we keep those files safe, because if we lose them, um, especially our passports as well, it's just proof of citizenship and everything else and all that stuff, but it's just important. If we lose any of that, it's just dangerous in general because anything can happen in life. Anyways, an evaluation. Now, for students to adapt to this sort of strategy, it is not easy at all. Let me repeat that. It is not easy at all. So trust me, my high school actually forced us to adapt to this kind of strategy. Actually, I'll fix that. I said actually twice. I'm sorry. So from freshman year to senior year, this was adapted. Um, we had our homerooms, and they would teach us and actually force us to organize our work to our own files. I remember I clearly hated doing that, as I couldn't leave the class for lunch if I didn't organize it nice and correct. Excuse me. Sorry about that. However, today it is nice being able to organize and schedule everything casually and not treat it like a chore. I guess you get used to it. In terms of revising, I would say those students with special needs or learning disabilities would need to have an actual assistant to help them work out their schedule. And for a student who struggles with being a procrastinator, or with procrastination in general, I suggest they go to step by step and go slow when trying to adapt to this new strategy, because it is definitely not easy to adapt. I used to be this kind of person where I would skip everything. I would be so lazy to do everything. So what I first said, yes, I we were forced to actually adapt to this kind of strategy where it comes to like organizing our files, or organizing everything we need. Being very time manageable. Because this was my freshman year of homeroom. I remember I basically transitioned from middle school, so keep that in mind. I was basically a kid before. I was in eighth grade. I was probably messing around. With other kids. Probably didn't really focus that much. And now that I transition, to a high school that really takes this seriously. And wants to prepare us for life, and not just life, but also school. Yeah, they took that very seriously because they forced us to keep everything organized, and if we didn't keep it organized, we wouldn't be let go for lunch. They would keep us in until we had it organized correctly and nicely. And I honestly thanked him for that. If As much as I hated it when I was younger, I really thanked him for that, because I not only did I get used to it, but also it just helped me prepare on the long run for my success in life. I'm very organized. As of right now, I'm very thankful that I am like this. You know, I am very proactive with my organization skills, like you would say, and not just in school but also in work. For my job, um, they release new job schedules every Friday, so I would always write it down whenever I have to work. Also putting in alarms, before I have to go to work, and will also um, remember to update my schedule availability for the coming week. So I plan ahead, everything that I need to get done. And I just hope whoever, you know, starts this new strategy, I just wish you the best of luck because it is definitely not easy. Um, it is not easy to adapt, and I do hope you truly do commit to this strategy because it is definitely not easy. Because I know I was not committed at first, but for those few weeks of starting high school, but I know you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. I know past students have are now like probably in corporate jobs or in a professional job or any kind of job. Even not even doesn't even have to be a professional job. Maybe a blue collar worker. Maybe just a normal job. Any kind of job, or just in life in general. And everyone is organized in some kind of way. You know, it's. I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's also not easy. It's just something you gotta adapt as we go on in life. And for my citations, here we go. Zimmerman, and Britain and Tesser. And thank you very much for listening to my final discussion presentation. It was a great 5 weeks.